right, good evening and welcome to News Sources on this 21st day of June 2017. It is just 47 days to the next general election, and as expected, the two horses are racing in this campaign period. Heading to State House, of course, we shall see who's going to win that battle. Tonight, I'm joined by Roslyn Obala, Danish Odongo, Dominic Wabala, and Billy Miruri as we delve into the sticky issues that continue to arise during this campaign period. My name is Julie Masiga. Before we start, let's have a look at the highlights.
Wao ndio wanakuja kuingia, kuvamia. Mpaka sasa kuja kama sasa hakuna mashamba sababu ya fukara. Hiyo tunataka kubadilisha.
You look, we also have video showing the people in green t-shirts with the rungus. So it depends on what you want to see and what you want to present.
We have his speech here. He said, sisi tulikuja hapa hatukuacha mikono nyumbani. Showing that he was prepared for war. I addressed people after that rally, after the incident. My language was peace, and I can prove it. My speech was about peace.
We have put the scan. We are scanning on the likelihood or the most likely causes of conflict, and therefore the ladies from those counties, we are going to ensure that you are given security. Kutafuta kiti kidogo kama Senate ama MP, you know, you need to assert yourself. Ama namna gani? Hapana sema tunapigana pia.
Right, now the National Cohesion and Integration Commission has termed NASA leader Raila Odinga's remarks in Kajiado as quote-unquote very disturbing. The former premier, while speaking in Kajiado a few days ago, said that the locals were forced to sell their land because of poverty. He called on them not to sell their land to people who came from elsewhere and urged them to hold on to their property because they were not selling it of their own free will. Let's have a listen in.
Nauza mashamba kwa sababu sio kupenda kwako. Unaweza kwa sababu ya ufukara. Wasivyo? Wao ndio wanakuja kuingia, kuvamia. Mpaka sasa kuja kama sasa hakuna mashamba sababu ya ufukara. Hiyo tunataka kubadilisha.
Right, my guest right next to me here is Danish Odongo, who's a political commentator. Next to him is Dominic Wabala, who is a journalist right here at The Standard. And of course, Roslyn, senior political journalist here at The Standard as well. And Billy Miruri, who's a political journalist. So I think I'll start with you, Danish. What is your interpretation of what Raila said in Kajiado?
I really believe that the meaning to what was said really belongs to what the audience or the people interpret it to mean. Really, I think he's tried to clarify. He has clarified what he said, and I really don't want to belabor the point further. But I want to just urge the politicians that I know that sometimes the urge to win political votes is higher, but I think we must begin to think that the nation is bigger than politics and than the elections. After the 8th of August, we're going to have a country together, so we must be able to practice self-control, even though we want to say things that might actually be relevant and true. But do we really want to inflate passions and get people act and let it be a conversation that will characterize the elections of August 8th, or do we really want to talk about things that are able to bring us together and stuff like that?
Right, so I think I'll stick with my question because Danish has kind of sidestepped it. Because this question, people are interpreting what he said in different ways, depending on where you come from. What do you think about it?
Exactly. It's a political season, the madness season, and I think people are just interpreting it to suit themselves. Maybe guys want to use it to interpret it so that it suits the audience that they do. But looking at it on face value, I don't think there was any incitement. That is my take. I might be wrong, but I don't think there was any incitement in that. He's just cautioning them. I mean, I would interpret it as him telling guys in Kajiado that, hey, look, the government hasn't done anything much for you guys, and it's because of the poverty that you are being forced to sell your piece of land. I think we as Kenyans should be able to interpret any statements by politicians, not be interpreted for.
Okay.
Yeah.
But going on what he said, Roslyn, he kind of said that don't sell your land. People are coming from somewhere else to come and buy this land. They should go back to their places. is that subject to interpretation? It's black and white that it's a case of incitement.
I think I'll agree with what Fabala is saying, is that taking the time that he spoke, this is a political season. Everybody will interpret it the way they want. Their opponents will use it as a tool for campaign. But if you look at it in the face value, Kajiado is one of the places where people have been going to buy land. And I think it's high time our leaders also caution us that, because we do sell our lands because we don't have the money. So you sell it, at the end of the day, you don't look at what you're going to use after, beyond that land has been sold. So I think for me, from where I sit, I think there is no level of incitement in that. He was just cautioning these people that, hey, you need your land to at least invest in it. Even if you are to sell it, you have also to leave a parcel somewhere where you can also fall back on. And I think, again, if you look at beyond that, even for security measures and all that, how will you settle in an area where you are an outsider, you have actually settled in that place, and the locals are squatters? They do not have a place to stay in. So again, if you look at it in that basis, again, it's just telling them that you need to hold on to. If you look at devolution, you're talking about 60% remaining local, 40% external. So I think maybe in that basis, just telling them that you need to own your own.
Yeah, I agree with you to some extent, Roslyn. But Miruri, isn't it a case of willing buyer, willing seller? If you want to sell your land, just sell it, I think.
No, I think I'll first disagree with my colleagues, because I think what Raila has said is actually the best description of what we should not say at this time, at this period of time, the electioneering period. But the Kajiado land matter has been there with us, and I think the use of some of the words is very clear what he meant. When he uses the word kuvamia, it means it's like land is being, the Maasais are being robbed land, which is not the case, because I think the issue has been willing buyer, willing seller. But again, I would say, because I have some interaction with the Kajiado people over that issue over time, I think the Maasai people should also be educated on the impact of selling the land the way they do. So I think their leaders should be having a discussion on how they can protect the community from destroying itself.
Okay, let's stick with that issue, because now we're talking about opposition chief Raila Odinga, who has dismissed as absolute nonsense calls that he should be probed for allegedly issuing hate remarks in Kajiado. The NASA flag bearer was quoted telling the Maasai community not to sell their land to people from elsewhere. His remarks sparked fury among Jubilee leaders, who called upon the National Cohesion and Integration Commission and the Directorate of Public Prosecutions to probe Raila for incitement. But addressing the media on Monday, Raila said that nothing he had said warranted an investigation.
Juzi Bwana Uhuru Kenyatta akipeana hati ya kumiliki ardhi huko Kiambu, aliwashauri watu wasiuze mashamba. Umepewa title deed, tafadhali usiuze shamba yako, wewe hifadhi. Sasa itakuwa kwa upande mwingine ni mzuri, na ikiwaambia Masai ni itakuwa ni sasa ni baya.
Right, I'll start with you, Billy. Why are you smiling?
The Raila statement is very clear. He is looking for votes. And I think that statement was supposed to address the Maasai vote in Kajiado. Remember, Kajiado and Narok are battlegrounds. Although in Kajiado there is more Jubilee than NASA according to the 2013 votes. So what Raila is trying to do is trying to consolidate the Maasai, the Maasai vote. And he is trying to endear himself to the people we call the Maasai nationalists. People who would feel like he is coming to protect them from immigrants. And actually Raila was meaning, actually let us not go round, because what Raila was saying, he was telling these people that there is a community that has come and taken over your county. So even the politics, the way it is going in Kajiado.
I think that what Bill is saying, that is incitement. Because Raila did not mention a community, Raila did not mention anybody's name. What I mean, look at Kajiado, look at Kitengela, look at Athi River and all that. I mean, everybody's there. It is just not one community that is there. Virtually all of us are buying land.
I use the word immigrants.
Yes. No,
I didn't satisfy any one single community.
You mentioned a specific community.
Yes.
What I'm saying is that almost every Kenyan has bought, from every ethnic community, has bought a piece of land in Kitengela and the likes of it. Now, for somebody to interpret Raila's statement as targeting a particular community, that in itself is incitement, as it says.
But I think, Julie, the biggest discussion we should be having here is responsibility. There are leaders who say something, however well-intentioned it might be. We must look at the return on investment of a word that we speak. If it's likely to divide a people and cause mayhem, then I think we need to actually encourage our leaders to exercise more of responsibility. I don't want to interpret like Billy is saying. Neither would I want to use words like outsiders, like Beryl was saying. But I'd want to urge our leaders, especially the politicians, who enjoy an element of clout, to be a bit responsible as they speak, so that they don't take one word, misinterpret it, inflame passions, and then the nation already is headed to an election that 2008-2009 was
You know, Julie, again, it's so sad that every election year, the issue of land is one of the issues that either divide us or define how people define the elections. And I think it is one subject that we cannot shy away from. We have to confront it, and the way we confront it, it will be how responsible our leaders are. Because you see, the issue of the statement of Raila is becoming an issue based on how the Jubilee leadership interpreted what he said. If nobody picked the issue, it will have just remained an issue like that. So again, as much as we want to educate our people on how they handle their land or how they acquire the land, we need to have a message that is not divisive, a message that will actually resonate with the people on the ground. Because ask me, if you have a family of 10 and they sell their entire land and they turn to the government for assistance, why would I sell my entire land and now go back to the government for assistance? At least I need to learn that if it is 10 acres of land, I need to at least reserve some for my family.
But you see, all of that context didn't come out in the few remarks that Raila made in Kajiado, and I think that's the problem, because it's subject to a lot of interpretation. But then again, Billy, I think you went to the other extreme. But before we go there, let's just move to the next topic, which is about Wavinya Ndeti, who today got a major reprieve today after the High Court sitting in Nairobi ruled that her name be included on the ballot paper come August 8th. Justice George Odinga has quashed an attempt by the electoral body IEBC to bar her from contesting the position over claims she belonged to two parties. The IEBC had ruled that Wavinya does not qualify to contest for the position because she had not quit her chama cha Uzalendo party.
Yangu nataka kuchukua nafasi kwanza kushukuru Mwenyezi Mungu, alafu nishukuru koti yetu ya Kenya. Koti imeamua na imeamua vizuri. Nataka kuambia you have done justice for the people of Machakos County and women of this country as a whole. I've gone through so much. Nimepitia mengi, nimekuja kotini karibu mara 8. Lakini mimi ningeuliza tu IEBC, they need to be fair. Kwa sababu kama wangefuata, kama wangeuliza registrar of political parties vizuri na waulize maswali, hatungefika hapa.
Sasa muendelee pale, mfagie uchafu wote wa Machakos. Watu wa Machakos pesa zao zimeibiwa, na badala ya wale ambao ni wezi kuletwa kwa mahakama, wanashtaki wale ambao wanataka kuwafagia. Kwa hivyo Mungu ni mwema kwa watu wa Machakos. Wameandika 400 strong, it should be 450,000.
Right, if you'll excuse me, gentlemen, I will start with the lady, because we had a discussion about this before, and she's the only woman in NASA who seems to be seeking like a major position, which is a good thing on the one hand. But of course, there were intrigues surrounding her nomination process, the party she was in. What is your take on her victory now? Is it fair?
I think it's a victory, not just for Wavinya, but for the women leaders, because this is one woman who has remained very consistent in pushing for what she wants. And just as she was saying that if IEBC would have followed what had happened with the political parties registrar, and if you look at the Political Parties Act, that was amended. There's the issue of merger, and then there's the issue of coalitions. Wavinya has been part of the opposition coalition. And even before she resigned from her party, she has been part of CORD and part of NASA. So I think even with this, we will have followed from that because she was not crossing over from opposition to Jubilee, where she is actually supposed to have resigned.
But didn't she jump from one party to... Are you saying that you can jump from one party to another in the same coalition?
If it is within the same coalition, you are. Or if you merge, then you dissolve completely, and you dissolve the party completely. And in this case, she had indicated long time ago to work with Wiper, so it was not something that she did past the deadline of resigning. I'll give you a case in point. Remember when Senator Elizabeth Ongoro was blocked by ODM from vying in Ruaraka? Remember, she was there even towards the end of the deadline for one to resign from a political party and go to Amani. And she went to Amani and she is vying in Amani and she has been cleared. Why is it that when it comes to Wavinya Ndeti is actually a different ball game? And remember, she's not fighting only the wars with IBC. You've seen some of the Wiper members have come out openly and the men indicating that they cannot accommodate her.
I was about to ask, there seems to be some other intrigues. There's something you really around Wavinya Ndeti. What is the problem?
I think Wavinya Ndeti is becoming a victim of, political gerrymandering around. But I think what is happening is that I think it is not the responsibility of Wavinya Ndeti to remove herself from a party. I think she did what she was supposed to do, and what is happening at the moment, I think it is good for her politics. I think this one is also galvanizing the Wiper support base, and I think for me, she'll emerge victorious. But again, the other issue is the issue of Wavinya is bringing is the decision-making processes of IBC, because here is IBC making a declaration only for the court to overturn it. So I think there is an issue of the sanctity of the
IBC decisions.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think IBC on this one goofed. It was their process was mischievous because even then the Register of Political Parties was categorical that she had been cleared and she had followed the due process. So why IBC on itself will just insist that she is a member of this party? Instead of consulting the Register of Political Parties, who is the only one who can confirm that Billy is in Jubilee or in NASA and Wabala is in ODM or whatever party it is. I think it was mischief on the part of IBC.
Of IBC.
Yeah.
I really think it's a victorious day for the women in this country. First of all, it's a stamp of authority that leadership can be transferred from a male governor to a female governor. That will soon happen on the August of 8th in Machakos County.
8th of August.
8th of August, rather. But then secondly, I think we also must appreciate the separation of powers between different institutions, like what the courts did. And moving forward, I really want to urge the people of Machakos to set the country ablaze in terms of changing the path of how we have our politics, so that if somebody is qualified and somebody has gotten through the normal procedure that is required and they're able to win, then we're able to transfer it to the national politics, and hopefully we may have a female president.
So is she qualified? Is she qualified, Rosalind?
I think she's qualified. I think this
She's gonna be
thing
the next
of
governor of
thinking
Machakos.
that because she's a woman, for women you're supposed to do twice what the men do, and I think she's equal to the task.
And she's
these two guys have already declared her the winner of Machakos.
She's completely wrestled all the men down. She's a strong woman, and we need to give her applause.
I'll fall short of saying that she's the only person who can face off with Dr. Mutua.
Don't say she's the only man, because that's where we But anyway, let's go forward. And now we'll talk about land injustices, because at the heart of the raging land debate is the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation Commission report, which exposed the extent to which community land in Kenya has ended up in the hands of a privileged few. The report focuses on historical land injustices, explaining how they have led to inter-community animosities. The report also makes specific mention of the quote-unquote willing buyer, willing seller principle that led to the transfer of land from citizens to politically connected individuals and communities, leaving scores of Kenyans without land or title. So as I say, this is at the core. First of all, it's an electioneering period, so land is obviously an emotive issue. But then, of course, we had this commission, and they did a report which had a specific section on land and how to address it. So why are we in 2017, 4 years after this report was published, and nothing basically it has not been implemented. Miriam, I'll start with you.
I think the implementation of that report, okay, this RAD issue has been made to look like the opposition are the one pushing for it, and they are the ones accusing maybe the Jubilee side.
Are they not the ones pushing for it?
That whatever is supposed to be implemented is being halted by the Jubilee side or the Jubilee leadership. But I think that report is also a very sensitive. I had the chance of looking at it, and it's also a very sensitive document to handle. And I think even the operations of the National Land Commission, some of the things that it has been doing, including the issuance of the titles by the government, is also a part of correcting those historical injustices. But it has been made to look by the opposition like it is the other side that is not working. But I think there is a lot of things happening over that.
Well, what I would say to that is that they're the government in office, and there is a report that needs to be implemented. Roslyn, they should implement it.
I think I beg to differ with Billy, because when he says that it's a blame game between the opposition and government. Remember, the president took a bold step, and himself, he apologized and even indicated that there was some 10 billion that was supposed to be shared among some of the victims. It just remained a statement made in Parliament. We have never seen that implemented. Two, this report has been tabled in the House. And we can't say that it is only the Jubilee side, because we don't have an opposition in Parliament. We have a majority and a minority. What has the minority done? Because they're part and parcel of the House Business Committee that comes up with the business of the day in the House. So this is a report that is always in the order paper, but doesn't move past that order paper. So in this case, we should pose a statement to all our leaders who are serving in the current Parliament. What did they do 4 years down the line? So when we are having issues of land, we need to pose it to them. They have put us in this situation, because if we will have adopted that report, at least some of the mess that we are seeing now will have been implemented, including the money that the president pledged.
Right, and Billy said something about it being a very sensitive report. I guess you mean the people mentioned in there are probably in high places, but
exactly.
And also in government.
Some of the people in the report mentioned in the report are people in positions of power, of influence. That is why Bill is referring to it as a sensitive. but it doesn't make sense. I would, like Roslyn has just rightfully said, I would blame it on the leadership of the entire leadership of the country, both majority and minority, because the report was supposed to be implemented. It is upon them. Only I can't do it. You can't. It's just them in Parliament who can do it, and they have failed Kenyans in as far as implementing that report is concerned.
Right.
So the blame goes to all of them. It is not opposition, neither is it Jubilee.
Okay.
But you know, it's also clear to the Kenyan citizen that when it comes to anything that touches the political class, they will actually drag their feet.
Yes.
Anything that will give justice to a poor Kenyan in Kajiado, to a poor Kenyan in Garbatula, and anybody who is seen to be ordinary, doesn't have a name of privilege, that will be dragged, and it'll never see the light of day. So I really want to urge Kenyans to scrutinize some of these leaders who are in the current parliament that was just dissolved last week. That are they really able to come back and represent their interest? If the one thing that has turned this country into hotspots from 1992 and eventually blew up in 2007 is not being handled with the seriousness it deserves. Land is an emotive issue in this country. People have died, people are being killed, land. People, recently we saw the case of in Eldoret of what happened in Gishu County, and it's alleged that land caused that. So I think this is something that is very serious, that our leaders need to take it as serious as possible, and even if it means that those who are in positions of power suffer for the sake of 45 million Kenyans to have peace and have justice, so let it be.
Okay, but just back to a point that Roslyn made about minority and majority in Parliament. If you're suffering from the so-called tyranny of numbers, do you have any power to push through something like the TJRC report, or you just hold up your hands and wait for the other side to do it?
Okay, maybe just to pick on that, Danish said that Parliament dissolved last week. It hasn't dissolved. It's Synod. They're just on a break. They are serving up to the day of the elections. Coming back to your question, what I meant to say is that if you look at the committees, the composition is from both sides. One side
They're equally represented.
Yes.
Yeah.
One side cannot make a decision. And even for that report to have been brought in the House, why didn't we have a minority report brought in the House to say our efforts are being frustrated by the tyranny of numbers, quotes and quote, the Jubilee side? We didn't see any effort from the minority side. So in this case, they should share that, and we should not even hear them shouting out in the rallies that, oh, we were not able to handle land issues. They had the report. What did they do about it? Even if they would have just singled one person, it will have sent a message to the others that indeed we are committed to addressing land issues.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, we should go to our Twitter poll now, because we're asking you something to do with the land issue, and we're asking, has the Jubilee government done enough to address historical land injustices? Has the Jubilee government done enough to address historical land injustice? You can tweet injustices. You can tweet me at Julie Masiga, at KTN News. The hashtag, of course, is news sources. Right now, we're going for a break. We'll be right back.